Okay, let's continue our conversation on function notation. Again, need you to understand if it's a non-application, a non-story problem, what we're saying is that our answer for y is a function of whatever x is. So this just means the phrase function of x. So here I say f of x equals this equation. What I mean is that y is equal to this equation, but if I want you to evaluate it and I want you to put a 2 in for x, then that means anywhere you see x in the equation, I want you to substitute a 2 in and then follow order of operations to evaluate it. So we'll take 7 times x is 2, and then we'll subtract 3. Order of operations says we should multiply. 7 times 2 is 14. We subtract 3 and we get an output of 11. So as that function machine goes, what we just did is we just put in to this 7x minus 3, we just dropped in a value of 2 and out came an answer of 11. We would say f of 2 is equal to 11. Same equation, if I ask you to find f of a negative 4, I'm asking you to go into this equation and take 7 times a negative 4 and then subtract 3. So this is a negative 28, and then I want you to subtract 3. Gives me an output of a negative 31. Gets a little harder, depends on if the function is linear or not, which that one was. Let's look at this one. F of x equals, take your variable for x and square it, and then add 1. So when I ask you to find f of 3, I'm asking you to put a 3 in here for x and square it, and then add 1 to that, because order of operations says to do the exponents first. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. Add 1, and you get an answer of 10. F of a negative 2. In the same equation, please substitute the negative 2 in for x in parentheses because I want to take the negative 2 and square it. So a negative 2 squared is going to be a positive 4. Don't forget to add the 1. So again, this means a negative 2 times a negative 2, which is a positive 4. Add 1 to that and we'll get an answer of 5. So when I ask you what is f of a negative 2, you're going to tell me that the output out of that function machine is the number 5. Now, sometimes we don't use f of x. Sometimes we use different letters. Maybe this is, I don't know, hovering is a function of a quotient. You know, I'm using h and q. But it means that q is my independent variable. I'm going to ask you to put numbers in for q, like 49 and 0.16, into this equation. So when I say find h of 49, I'm asking you to dump into this function machine. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking you to put into the machine a value of 49, and then I want you to take and put that in anywhere you see q in that equation. So there's the equation, and I want you to dump out the answer. So here, 7 divided by 49 plus 3 times the square root of 49. Now some of this I can do without a calculator, and you know, here's a decimal value for an input, so probably they just want me to use a calculator to do this. I could do it in one fell swoop, or I could think about the fact that the right hand side, 3 times the square root of 49 means 3 times 7, because the square root of 49 is 7. So now it would be easier for me to type in 7 divided by 49 plus 21. So, you know, 7 divided by 49 plus 21, and the calculator happens to know order of operation, and it gives you 21.14 or so. So I'm going to go ahead and put that 21.14. If I've asked to find h of 0.16 into the original equation where I see q right here and right here, I'm going to put in a 0.16. So, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and type that in my graphing calculator. So I would type that in my graphing calculator by just going 7 divided by, I'm just going to type 0.16, I don't need that 0, plus 3 times the square root of, watch, second, and then there's a square root symbol right there. 3 times the square root of 0.16, didn't need the 0, and then I'm going to close my parentheses, and I get 44.95. So I'm evaluating functions, but I'm just going ahead and doing it with my calculator. Let's just do a few more. Of course, you should be pausing if you'd like as we work through these. Again, f of x, s of t. Maybe this is in physics. S stands for a height. Often in physics, t stands for time. So the height of an object falling might be a function of the time that it's been in transport, if you will. If I ask you to find s of a -2, I'm asking you to put a -2 right there into this equation. So a -2 plus the 11. The -3 is outside of the parentheses, so be careful. Right here, a -2 plus 11 under the radical is 9. The square root of 9 is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So we get our output. This s of a -2, that output turned out to be 0. Hey, look at this one. It doesn't want us to put a number in for s. It wants us to put a letter in. So it says evaluate the function with a squared anywhere you see t, is what it says. So I just want to put an a squared right there, plus the 11, minus the 3, which is outside of the radical, and I am all done. There, I can't evaluate this. The square root of a squared would be a if it was just the square root of a squared. It's a square root of a squared plus 11. You cannot do anything with this to simplify it. You are done. Okay, let's look at number 5. So now we're asking you to really use your calculator. So I want to find g of 0.9261. So that means right here and right here, I'm going to put 0.9261 in. So I'll have the square root of 0.9261 plus 1.0604. All of that was underneath the radical. Now minus 6 times 0.9261, that quantity cubed. You know, we're in a course where we're going to have to be doing a lot of science, a lot of technology. We're going to use our calculator to do this. My calculator is going to cover this up when I open it right now. So you're going to have to use your notes. This is what we're going to calculate right here. So I'm going to open up my calculator, and I want to take the square root. So second and this x squared button has the x. So the blue second button with the blue square root symbol here, and then 0.9261 plus 1.0604, and I'm going to close those parentheses. If I don't, it won't take just the square root of that sum. Now I've got to hit the minus sign, and then 6, and I'm going to open up the parentheses because I have 0.9261 and I want that cubed. So right here's your caret key to raise that to the third power, and I hit enter, and I get a -3.35 or 3.36. You go ahead, please, and make sure you're practicing these. Actually, this had 4 significant digits, so likely your author would put 3.356. So there's 4 significant digits just like that. So here, x to the 4th power. So I want to put this number raised to the 4th power. So it'll be, you know, that little caret symbol on your calculator, minus 2.0965. All of that needs to be divided by 6 times the value for x, which is 1.9654. I want you to know that either you can do what's in this numerator and then hit enter. I will often hit enter. This is my symbol for enter. And then divide it by what's in this denominator. Or you could even calculate what the numerator is, what the denominator is, and then do the division. Again, I'm going to cover this up. You won't be able to see it. I think I might do it that way. I think I might go ahead and, let's see, I can move this here. So let's go 1.9654 to the 4th power minus 2.0965 1.0965. And let's just hit enter. That number is 12.824, as I recall. All right, let's go back. The denominator is 6 times 1.9654. And let's hit enter. That's 11 point, no, I forgot what it was, 11.7924. So now I could go ahead and do the division, which was 12.824 divided by this answer from previous. So see the answer, ANS key here above this negative sign in blue. I'm going to go second and tell it to use the previous answer, which was the 11. So I'm taking the 12.824, dividing it by 11.7, and I know that should be about 1, because 12 divided by 11 is a little bit bigger than 1, and I get an answer. I'm going to go ahead and write it here as 1.0875. Before I close, I want to show you how you could do that calculation all at once. So you could go 1.9654, which was raised to the 4th power, minus 2.0965. So that's the numerator, and hit enter. Then you could divide by, but you've got to put the 6 times the 1.9654 in parentheses to tell it that you want it to divide by the whole denominator, the 6 times, and then hit enter and still get that 1.0875. I'm going to come back one more time at you with some applications of functions.